Hello and welcome to the Panthers Courtside Report alongside Panther women's basketball coach Kyle Recklitz. My name is Matt Menzel. We talk Panther women's basketball. And as we sit here right now, 23 games into the season, 11 victories and 12 defeats, 6-6 in league play. And coach, when you take a look at the first now 23 games, if somebody asks you, hey, what are the strengths of this team? What concerns do you have going into the final 3 weeks of the regular season? What would your answers be?
And my answer would be that's a loaded question. Not just kidding. I have just it's such a joy coaching this team, and the thing that I think is great, probably the best attribute about us is that if we have a tough loss like we did on Thursday of this last week, we lose to the competing, defending for that number 1 spot, Wright State by 4. The next day when we walk out on the court, it's like you can't tell that we played a game the day before. If you win by a lot, you lose by a lot. We step onto the court the next day with a renewed sense of energy. Ready to attack and find the next win. And they're just playing one game at a time. So I think that's a huge strength of ours, is that it's really one game at a time. We never look at who we're playing until the day before the game or 2 days before.
Have there been a lot of surprises here along the way, or things kind of panning out kind of how you envisioned?
Sometimes, there's obviously we're in a lot of close games, and it's just we haven't been able to get over the hump in those types of games. And so that's not something that I would love to envision. Mm-hmm. I try not to envision that. I try to think that we're going to learn from that here. We're doing a lot of film on IQ mistakes. That's something we've been really focused on as of late, and learning from those mistakes and applying them to the next game. So we watch mistakes that we made, and then the next game we watch how do we respond to those mistakes. And that seems to be working really well for them. They seem to be responding well to that.
Well, the second half of conference play began back on the 2nd of February, a 59-45 loss at Green Bay. And when you kind of look back at that game, okay, you got off to a quick start in that first quarter, had a solid end in the fourth, but, kind of hit a lull in the second and third quarters, and those were the 2 quarters that essentially decided the outcome. Yeah,
absolutely, and a lot of that was due to Green Bay. They're very talented on the defensive end, and we struggled to find shots. We got a little bit away from what we had been doing in the first quarter. Now we only scored 9 in the first quarter. Really, it was our defensive effort that was pretty incredible in the first. But in the fourth quarter, we finally just stopped worrying about rotating the ball and we just played. We got downhill quite a bit, especially in the middle 1/3 of the court, which is something we had really harped on during the scouting report. And we just it was like that moment of, let's just see if we can find a way to win this. And we had a couple of really outstanding performances in that fourth quarter, and it gave us some confidence going into that next week.
And I feel like we bring up either a Kayla Hayes or Ryan Johnson on a fairly regular basis. But again, seniors stepping up, and in this case, Ryan Johnson with a second double-double. She came through with a career best of 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks. And she kind of set the tone in that first quarter.
Yeah, Ryan was incredible, especially at the start. I mean, she was our go-to player. We were trying to find her on the block. We were finding her out away from the basket. And then we had a really hard time defending the Wolf sisters in the first game against them. Their inside post presence was really good against us, and she really had a field day. So this game, Ryan kind of made it her personal mission to make sure that she was going to get stops. She had a couple fouls on her that, called on her that, were questionable there in the middle 2/3 of the quarter, so we had to sit her for a little bit. But she played just with such heart and very much like a senior.
Well, kind of like something out of the Twilight Zone. Okay, lost by Green Bay by 14 in the first half, by 14 in the second half of conference play. Lose to Wright State by 4 in the first half, lose to Wright State by 4 here in the second half. And recap of the Wright State game now back on the 7th of February, a 73-69 setback. That was a game in which, Wright State jumped out of the gates up 9-0. You guys found ways to battle back, but you mentioned it earlier, could not get over the hump.
Yeah, and unfortunately I had to call timeout when they started that 9-0 run just to kind of settle our team in and let them know that we're going to be okay. Didn't yell at them, didn't need to yell at them. They wanted to win that game as much as we did. So I knew that we would make a little bit of a comeback there, and the team seemed very focused and ready to do that. But it's unfortunate because I needed that timeout right at the end of the game to try to go for the win. But our team played with so much heart, and we missed a lot of opportunities. We missed a lot of layups around the basket, and that's something that we watched the next day was finishing. We missed a lot of opportunities to hit our post players for post touches, and we definitely took what I would consider some shot turnovers. We had some bad shots in that game.
You mentioned it too after the game. You compare the first meeting to the second meeting, and transition defense was better the second time around, rebounding not so much.
Yeah, we really dominated the boards at their place. I tried not to let our team get too big of a head on that because I kept saying, I don't think they crashed as hard at their place as they normally had been crashing. I think they relied on some other attributes, and so we really knew that they were coming for us from a rebounding perspective, and they did. I mean, they had 18 offensive boards, and that really is what secured the win for them. And we lost some of that toughness battle early in the game. We tried to regain it about mid-game, but it was too late at that point. They'd already scored too many points. And then right there in the fourth, they had gotten 4 or 5 consecutive plays where they had rebound after rebound after rebound when we had forced some bad shots. So that's something, again, we watched that on film and we applied that in the NKU game. And so I'm proud of at least the steps that we're taking with it.
It was great to see, too, Lizzie Odegaard and Jamie Wright each get back on track, each scoring 16 points. And for Liz Dog coming through with her first career double-double of 16 points, 12 rebounds.
Lizzie was outstanding, and I think the thing that makes me so proud about it is how much work she put in. The last 2 weeks, she has been in the gym nonstop, trying to get extra shots up. She really knows how it's affecting our team, the fact that she hasn't been able to put the ball in the basket, and she owns that and has taken a lot of pride in that. And so she's been in the gym, she's been doing the extra, and it's paying off. You have that old saying, hard work, pays off and all that kind of stuff, and she's a direct proof of that because she's been putting the work in, and now she's starting to really perform for us at a very high level.
And she stayed positive, too. It's easy to kind of get in that rut and, it starts affecting everything you do. But she's found a way to stay positive. And as you mentioned, put the work in on top of it. And now, as you see, the results are starting to trigger.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it was 3 games ago, before this weekend and before the Green Bay game, right there, she had some unbelievable high-low passes. It was like she wasn't hitting, so now she was going to become a great passer for us. And she ended up having 3 assists in the game. I think it was against the UIC game and did really excellent job there. So she was finding other ways to contribute when maybe the ball wasn't going in the basket. Now that's made her a full, complete player because she's rebounding, she's assisting, and she's scoring. So it's exciting to see her take those big steps for us.
Well, in segment number 3, we will recap the victory against Northern Kentucky, but when we come back, we'll be joined by Panther freshman Meghan Wall.
It's always out there. The horizon. A reminder that our greatest goals are rarely attained. And as soon as you reach one, another emerges. But every day we rise and work harder, dig deeper, ask one more question, take one more shot in relentless pursuit of our horizon.
Welcome back to the Panthers Courtside Report. Matt Menzel alongside Panther freshman Meghan Wallstead as we talk about Meghan, her contribution so far with Panther women's basketball. And let's begin by going back in time, your high school days in Minnesota. You were named Minnesota's Miss Basketball. You won a state championship. On top of that, you scored over 1,000 points. How would you go about summarizing your high school career?
I was really fortunate to have great teammates and great coaches all throughout my high school career, and I would just say it was an amazing experience for me, and just leading into college, I think it really prepared me well because I was going against some really great teams in Minnesota, and I think it just helped me get to where I am today.
And I read that state championship game, no slam dunk, no pun intended. You guys were down 13 points in the first half. You came back, you guys found a way to win that game. In your opinion, what was the turning point in bringing home that state championship?
I mean, we were playing Hopkins, who has always been kind of our rival team. And so when we came out, I think we were a little bit intimidated, and we just had to kind of figure out how we were going to play that game. And once we kind of clicked, we just got going and started working together as a team, which we did all season long. And I think we just got going and made some great plays and finally got a lead.
You had a 20-point, 7-rebound performance, capped off what was a 32-0 season. And so from high school to Milwaukee, why the Panthers?
I really just love the atmosphere here. I loved the coaches right away and the teammates I connected well with right away. So it just felt like a great fit for me.
Now you take a look at the high school game, collegiate game, in your opinion so far, 23 games in your college career. What has been the biggest difference between the two?
The biggest difference I would say is just like the pace and the physicality. I mean, it's just a lot faster and everyone is a lot stronger. So just getting used to that kind of took some time, but now that I have played some games, it feels a little bit more natural and comfortable.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the physicality. How physical does it get on the inside, and how have you been able to adapt to that physicality?
It gets pretty physical. A lot of the girls are very strong, so getting in the weight room has been really important for me. And just kind of getting used to it. It took a few games, I'd say. Like at the beginning, it was definitely a shock at how physical it is inside, but now that I've got the hang of it, it's gotten a bit easier.
Your dad competed at the Division I level. He was in track and field at Minnesota. Did he help you did he give you advice and maybe preparing you for college athletics, the D1 level?
Mm-hmm. He's always been a big support system for me, and he taught me how to play basketball. And so having him, he coached me as well when I was younger, and so he's been a big impact for me throughout my years playing basketball, and I'm very grateful for all he's taught me.
Did you ever try track and field or any other sport, or has it always been basketball?
It's always been basketball. I think I played soccer for like a week when I was 4. And nothing else. It's always just been about basketball for me. I knew that was a sport that I wanted to play.
What's your first recollection of picking up a basketball or playing some type of organized basketball?
Actually, in kindergarten, I was playing in like a YMCA game, and I shot at the wrong basket. And so that was kind of traumatizing for me. I ended up like quitting basketball for a year because I was just so traumatized and embarrassed that I did that. But my dad convinced me to pick it up again, and ever since I've been playing. Did
you ever envision back then that you'd end up as a collegiate athlete in the sport of basketball?
Honestly, when I was that young, probably no. But once I got into like middle school and high school, early high school, I started to realize that it could be possible and something that I started to work for.
So take us back to November 7th, the season opener at Indiana, your collegiate debut. You're part of the starting 5. What are the emotions, what are the feelings as you step on the basketball court in game action for the first time as a college athlete?
I was definitely nervous, but I was also very excited, and there was just a lot of adrenaline going, and it was really just exciting to step out on the court for the first time.
And you've had, an impact on this team, and you look 11 points in that opener against the Hoosiers. You've scored in double figures on 14 separate occasions to date. You've had a double-double against Youngstown State. Did you ever envision, obviously you hope, but did you envision you'd have this kind of an impact so soon with this team?
I definitely hoped I would be able to. I mean, I didn't really know coming into it what my role would be, but now that I'm here, it feels great to be able to have a big role in the team.
Hey, you mentioned role. How would you define your role?
I would say I'm someone who finishes inside. I'm posting up a lot inside, but I'm also able to like shoot mid-range shots and sometimes out at the three-point line. And then also on the defensive end, I can play on the perimeter and inside, so I think it's just a multi-dimensional role.
You mentioned you've had some big performances already. Any one or two performances that stand out more to you that you look at and go, so far that's the highlight of my year?
I think Youngstown State was a great game, especially it was the school day game, so the atmosphere was just kind of crazy in there, and it was just really fun to play. And then IUPUI, which we lost, unfortunately, but hitting the shot at the end was kind of crazy for me.
You go back to the Youngstown State game, and you talk about the school day, the atmosphere, and so many screaming youngsters in the stands. You guys do feed off that crowd, don't you? That's a big pick-me-up for that 11:30 start.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. I mean, they're just screaming, and they're so excited, and they're dancing and singing. It was really fun to play in that kind of environment.
You've been the Horizon League Freshman of the Week 3 times already, again, to date. What does that mean to you that you've been looked upon, by your peers throughout the Horizon League, at least in, 3 different instances, the best freshman right now in this league?
It's really an honor, and I'm just happy that I can be having this role on the team early in, and hopefully we can continue to do that throughout the season.
So as you continue to grow at the collegiate level, when you look at your game, what are some of the areas that you're looking at, working on, that you want to continue to see improve as you go along?
Definitely, I want to be able to be a little bit better defensively and just kind of hold my ground more in the post, because like we were talking about, some of the girls are a lot stronger. And then kind of having more of consistency from the outside range, from three-point range. I'd like to be a little more consistent.
And Coach wants you to take about 15 shots on average per game. Do you think that's realistic?
Yeah, some games I think it is. I mean, some games we have people who are, having a hot hand. Like the other night, Lizzie was really hot and she was shooting a lot from the outside. So I think getting her more touches in those kind of games is good too. But I think that me taking some shots from the outside or inside is also good in the games.
Well, as always, Meghan, thanks a lot for your time and continued success.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's Panther freshman Meghan Wall. More of the Panthers Courtside Report coming up after this. Welcome back to the Panthers Courtside Report, and being rejoined by Coach Kyle Recklitz. And Coach just had Meghan Wall on with us during the last segment. How did Meghan kind of fall on your radar, and what, in your opinion, made her a good fit for the Panthers?
Well, I've been watching her for a very long time, and actually there was a period of time where I kept saying to myself, should I actually be out watching her? Because I don't know if we can actually get her. She is such an outstanding player, and from the moment I saw her, when I was at the University of Dayton, we recruited a lot of 4 players that were like her, and she reminded me of one of my former players, Justine Ratterman, who is one of the best players to have played at Dayton, and is actually, I think, now in the Hall of Fame there. So she was outstanding, and that's the first thing. When I saw Meghan, I was like, this is like Justine Ratterman, and she could do wonders for us. And she's really just such an awesome person. Her family is amazing. It's been truly a blessing to have her in our program.
So you expected her, she'd be college ready upon coming on campus, and she'd have an impact like she has so quickly?
Honestly, she is one of the freshmen that I really felt like would. And a lot of times I don't try to insinuate how freshmen are going to do, because you just never know. Are they going to be in shape when they step on? How are they going to be mentally? But Meghan has just a different maturity about her. She came in and she was running with Michaela, which is unreal, because Michaela beats all of our conditioning tests. And some of those first conditioning tests, she was right behind her. And when you saw that aspect, you just knew that how competitive she was, as well as how smart she is.
So when you look at her game right now, what areas do you look at and say, hey, there's still some room to grow here? I'd like to see, this area of her game improve as we go along.
Yeah, well, we want to continue to work on our defense and continue to get her to become a lockdown defender, especially as the 4 player. I'd like to continue here, especially when we hit the postseason and this summer, to really work on some of her handle aspects. We want to see if we can start getting her to draw some attention on some drives to the basket. That was something that Steph really developed between her sophomore and junior year. If we can find a way to develop that, and Meghan's, between Meghan's freshman and sophomore year, that would be huge. So we want to get her to put the ball on the floor more, and then just stay consistent. She's going to start receiving double teams and stuff like that as she moves through her career, and so we've got to teach her how to play out of those double teams as well.
And this past Saturday, she was big in a rout of Northern Kentucky, coming through with 9 points and tied her career best with 10 rebounds. And you had mentioned, you go back to round 1 against NKU versus round 2, and it was so important for the post to establish themselves.
Yeah, they definitely won the battle there. Their post players had, and it was a very physical game, and our posts kind of took it, at NKU. And so we kind of gave them a little personal mission, and we gave our guards a goal of getting post touches during the game, and they were bought into it. Both sides, the guards and the posts, were all bought into making sure our posts got touches. And so we went to Meghan early and often at the beginning of that game, and for her to have 9 and 10 and the amount of time that I think she played 20 minutes, is incredible numbers.
How about the defense? Speaking of incredible numbers, a number of either program records or top 3 records as far as defensive performances go, from opponent field goal percentage to points and a half to total points in the game, holding Northern Kentucky to 38 at one point, had 1 field goal between the second and third quarters. I mean, the defense holding that program to about 21% shooting, incredible.
Yeah, our team is really bought into scouting reports, and I love it. They are just really focused on it, and earlier in the year we had to get on them a little bit for it, and since then they have been excellent. I mean, they really have locked in to who they're playing against, knowing their personnel while also knowing plays. For the first time, though, this last Saturday, I actually heard our team on the court calling the offenses. And, it's like they passed the high post and they cut away, and all of a sudden Meghan Wall, a freshman, is out there calling what the next action is going to be. And that says a lot. That says about how far we've come. It also says the confidence that we're gaining, and not being afraid to call those defensive stuff out. And that I had a lot of pride in that, because that's something that we've really been talking a lot about. And our team, from the bench to the court, everybody was just bought into the defensive side, and that really fueled our offense as well.
It was the annual Pink Out game, second consecutive year, the Pink Out game against Northern Kentucky. What does the breast cancer awareness game mean to you?
A lot. I actually have a middle school, one of my friends from middle school actually has passed away from breast cancer now, and has left, 2 kids and a husband. And I have, other friends that have gone through it, and it's such a scary thing, because you just never know when it's coming. And so the more money that we can raise for research and hopefully finding a cure is such a huge aspect. This year we actually supported a local organization called Chicks for a Cause. They are unbelievable. Their passion and their enthusiasm for helping women is great. And so our team is actually going to be partnering with them here in some community events. And our marketing director, Leah, is the one that really has set that up. And so really excited to have built a strong relationship with them and look forward to continuing working with them in the future.
Of course, after the game was a celebration as well, as you notched your 100th career victory, a nice on-the-court celebration, a video presentation from some alum, current players, former coaches, part of the video to help congratulate and celebrate the day in which you got your 100th victory. What does that mean to you as you become the third coach in program history to accomplish that feat?
Well, it was exciting. I mean, it's one of those things, I was hoping we could have gotten it a few games sooner, but I was, obviously very excited. And to do it with this team, a team that's really bought into one another, that really embodies what the culture that I've added to this program of just family and being really bought in, is just something I couldn't be more proud of. When those video messages came up, I, teared up a little bit. I had to put the flowers in front of my face for a hot second because I just didn't want to start crying. But it was really nice to see some of those people that had given so much and sacrificed so much to me and our program to help me get to that point. And, as soon as it was over, for me it was over. It was on to breaking down film and, trying to figure out how we can get win number 101 and 102.
I was about to say, on to victory 101 and 102 this weekend. A trip to Ohio and Cleveland State coming up on Friday at 6 o'clock tip time, and then 12 noon on Sunday at Youngstown State. This is going to be another challenging road trip. A couple of teams that are, right there, top 5 in the conference. And starts Friday with Cleveland State, who right now is half a game up on the Panthers for 5th place.
Yeah, this is a big one. This will put us in that, that running to stay up in that top group, and our team knows that. And we played pretty well against them the first time, and it was a close game. And Cleveland State plays a lot better at home. So it's one of those situations where they shoot the ball pretty well there. So we've got to be locked into the defensive game plan and go on this road trip with a little bit of confidence. It's going to be definitely us supporting ourselves in the gym on the road. It's going to be, we're going to have to be our own crowd. So our bench energy is going to be really important too.
And I'm guessing Sunday will be another Youngstown battle. It's decided by 6 points or less, or 4 points or less. Another overtime game, maybe?
It seems like that's been the trend. And they're another team that plays very well at home. They shoot the lights out there. So, defending that 3-point line, and hopefully Ryan will be ready to defend in the post again, and we can see what happens.
All right, Coach. Best of luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Now on the other side of this commercial break, we will check in with the men's basketball squad. Scott Warris along with Pat Baldwin here on the Panthers Courtside Report.
It's always out there. The horizon. A reminder that our greatest goals are rarely attained. And as soon as you reach one, another emerges. But every day we rise and work harder, dig deeper, ask one more question, take one more shot in relentless pursuit of our horizon.
Welcome back inside the Panthers Courtside Report. Scott Warris now joined by the head coach of the Panther men, Pat Baldwin. And Coach, we'll talk about this upcoming homestand. It's been almost a month since you were last on the floor at Panther Arena, but you just come off a 5-game road trip. And the guys now facing a little bit of adversity. But as is the adage, sports is a microcosm for life. And we all face adversity in life, and the guys are going through a little adversity on the floor right now.
No question about it, and we talk about that all the time with our guys, and whether you win or lose in those situations, you can't get too high or too low about them. You have to learn. In our case, we have to learn from the losses that we had, and that road trip was certainly a tough one where we had some tough games where we lost some close ones, but our guys, the thing that I talk to our guys about is how they respond and how they learn from that and get better.
Whether any team at any level, any sport wins or loses, there's always positives and negatives that coaches will find. So when a team is maybe not coming out with the W that everybody wants, how do you and your staff go about finding those silver linings to remind the guys, look, yes, we're all disappointed at the final outcome, but there are good things happening within those 40 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about our Youngstown State game, we talked to them afterwards about the fact that we did a lot of great things that put ourselves in position to win that game. So if Covington misses a corner 3, we're probably exposing those great things a lot more. So we did do a lot of great things, and we talk about that. And then there's a fine line in a loss like that where you try to search and help our guys understand how we can get better and then improve for our next game.
You brought up Youngstown, so let's touch on that for a second. And Darius Roy, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, just 3 dimes away from a triple-double. You and I have talked about him many different ways, many different venues, this being one of them. Where have you seen him grow the most, though, this year, and what has been such a good year for him?
Well, I think the area that I've seen him grow the most is with leadership. I think early on he was trying to find his way and try to see how can I navigate through our team, through our season, all those things. And then I think you see the maturation of him through the season where how do I get my other team or my other teammates better and get them going, and how do I talk to them? And I think that's the sign of maturity. I think that's sign of him progressing into that leader that we need him to be.
And he's certainly drawing the praise of others. I caught Youngstown State head coach Jared Calhoun's post-game news conference, and he said, in my opinion, I'm quoting the coach here now, Darius Roy is the best junior college player in this conference. It's one thing for those of us who know him well and follow him every day to laud praise on him, but when a player starts getting those type of comments from the competition, that's when you know he's really raising eyebrows league-wide.
Yeah, that's obviously a very good compliment from Coach Calhoun, and for Darius, I think that's something that he can build off of. Where when you start getting that praise from other coaches and players in the league, it certainly means that you're doing some very good things. And my hope is while he's doing some great things and others are recognizing that, I would hope that some of our other guys can do the same thing and heap some of those same praises.
We also saw a nice couple of games out of Amir Allen, and we've talked about him a lot this year as well, from that opener at Boston College where I felt he was just always around the rim or around the basketball. Nice double-double for him on this most recently completed road trip, his first career double-double. What do you like out of Amir in terms of his progression now, back half of his rookie campaign here? Yeah,
I think the one thing that you can count on with Amir is that he's going to give you a great effort every single time out, and certainly he followed that up, with a great game against Youngstown State from the, getting that double-double. So for him, it's just the progression offensively, with post moves and different things that we're working on with him every single day. And I just want that, that continued effort and sustain that as we go on for the rest of the season.
You mentioned the post. I was impressed with the way Vance Johnson rebounded less than 48 hours, a tough shooting percentage, a tough shooting game against Youngstown, but came back at Cleveland. Can you talk a little bit and perform nicely? Talk a little bit, if you could, about what you guys kind of fine-tuned in that day off in between to get Vance back on track with that little baby hook that he loves so well.
Well, sometimes, as with myself, I try to go seek a counselor at times, and a lot of times that's the role that we have to play as coaches. And we never want to see any of our players go through stretches where they're not performing well or a shot's not falling. And so, the day before our game against Cleveland State, I just had a one-on-one with him and talked with him about, the things that happen in a game. Sometimes you're not going to make a shot. Sometimes you're not going to play as well as you want to. But as long as you throw yourself into the game, sometimes good things will happen. And I thought in that Cleveland State game, I just thought he was throwing himself into the game. He was very active. Even when he wasn't in a game, in our huddles, I thought that he was very good. And that's the part of, throwing yourself into the game that I was talking to him about as well.
Just a couple of moments that we have left before we take a break. What have you seen out of your leaders right now? And we go back to the beginning of the segment talking about trying to pull the team through some adversity. How much do you lean on Bryce Barnes and Jake Wright, a couple of your captains, to say, look, we as coaches can only do so much. At some point, there are certain, peer moments that have to take over.
Yeah, I think the greatest thing that I take from them is a day after Youngstown State, when we're preparing for Cleveland State and everyone's, feeling bad about that type of loss that we had, you see Bryce Barnes trying to pick everybody up. And that's the thing that, we talk to our guys about is after something like this that happens to you, where you lose in a last second shot, the thing that we have to do, coaches have to do for our players, and I think even more importantly, teammates have to do for each other, is pick each other up, and that's what Bryce is doing. That's what Jake is doing. Even though we're not getting the wins like we want, but those guys are picking each other up, and I think that's what leaders do.
We'll take a break, Coach. When we come back, a man who sat out last year, redshirting and making a big-time contribution this year. DeAndre Abram joins us. Panthers Courtside Report continues after this. Back inside the Panthers Courtside Report and joined by Milwaukee guard / forward. He's a tweener. It's DeAndre Abram. Trey, thanks for the time. The first thing, we'll talk about the season for you and whatnot, but the first question I have is, going through the redshirt process last year, how hard was that? Because I don't know if fans recognize how difficult that can be for somebody that has to do all the work but doesn't get the reward of the game. So take us back to last year. Talk us through all that.
It was definitely tough. Definitely because I was the only redshirt last year. This year we had 4, and they get to do weight room and conditioning, together. But with me, last year it was just me by myself grinding. But I feel like it paid off, just with how I'm doing this season and things like that. It's just, help me get to where I'm trying to get to, but it was definitely tough during it.
What are some of the things you work on? Because, you played Division I college basketball at George Mason, and now you've got to take this year off. So what did you focus on? How did the coaches set up a season for you of just work on the court by yourself?
Definitely had some goals with, trying to get bigger, stronger, gain a couple pounds, and just understood the offense, for a year with, doing it with the, scout team all year, trying to get our team better, and just things like that. Just really was grinding.
Yeah. So how did that year make you a better player this year than you were the last time you played competitively at George Mason?
Just like I said, helped me get stronger with, taking contact, and also just getting my skill work better and getting better academically, just focusing on things to help me get to that next level. So, yeah.
What's that balance like, academics and athletics? Open that door for us a little bit. How difficult is that?
It was very difficult, definitely with, us traveling a lot and, missing classes and things like that. You have to, really set time to, do your academics, and, that's why they set times where, we have study hall at this time and things like that in order for us to not get too behind on our work. Last semester, I kind of learned that just with us traveling, because I know it was a little bit easier last year with me not traveling. So now this year I had to adjust to, traveling.
What's your favorite class? I asked you this off the air, so I'm going to ask it to you on the air. What's your favorite class? What are you studying? Take us into the classroom of DeAndre Abram.
Well, we have this interview class I'm taking this semester, and it's just the fact that it's helping me, become a better, interviewee, and if I want to get into things where I want to interview people, just allow me to get better at that as well. So it's just helping me out during the long run. So.
Should we switch seats?
Oh, I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
I don't know.
I'm still learning.
Learning on the fly.
Right.
What better way to learn?
Right.
Let's go on to the basketball court now. Your thoughts on your season to this point? You've put up some big numbers. We'll talk about the Detroit game because we've got them coming up on Thursday night. You hung about 31 on them the last time around.
Yes,
but
sir.
Big picture, your thoughts on your game on the court this year?
I feel like I'm playing well. It's just as a team, we just have to pick it up a little bit with us, not being in a slump right now. I just feel like we have to just go out there and just get one win, and I feel like that would just carry us on to, a momentum and have more success. And like I said, with these games coming at home, we'll just have some confidence with how we play at home. So I feel they'll help with me. I feel like me doing different things whenever, one of my part of the game's not working, I can, rebound, play defense in order for me to get going and get, the offense going as well. So at this point, we still got to get better, but we're in the right direction.
Coach and I talked in the first segment about, the team is going through a little adversity right now, but
Right.
we're all going to face adversity in our lives.
Right.
It happens for even the very best of teams. So as a player and as a team, what is the key to overcoming adversity, specifically right now on the court?
Really just working harder, doing things that people don't see and just try to get over that hump.
Like what? You mentioned things people don't see. Take us behind the curtain a little bit.
Like
examples of what?
Like, putting up more shots, watching more film, just really looking at the detailed things to see what we're doing wrong and then try to correct that up on the court and just doing everything it takes outside of basketball to see what's going on. So.
We've only got about a minute left with DeAndre Abram. So Detroit Mercy comes to the Panther Arena on Thursday night, 6 o'clock. Antoine Davis, talented freshman. When you and the team prepare for anybody, but certainly maybe for a team that has somebody who is a special player, it would appear that way anyway, certainly. Do you guys get amped up a little bit more, knowing that there's a pretty special player on the other team that you need to rise to that challenge?
Oh yeah, just the fact that we want to just go out there and get a win, whoever it is, regardless, and just we just have to put in a game plan in order, to stop, their main players, and just me wanting to take on that challenge with, guarding them at times and just doing everything it takes just to get a win, because we need it at this point. So.
And the last thing then, the last time the Panthers and the Titans met in Detroit, you went for over 30. What can you draw from that performance to help you on Thursday night?
Just coming in with the same confidence. They play a certain style of defense, and it just allowed me, to play zone. So, allowed me to fill in gaps and, use my length and my ability to, score within the zone. And I feel like that could be a repeat in this game as well, and just try to do everything it takes to get a win. So.
Absolutely. Dre, I appreciate the time. Next time we do this, you interview me. How about
Okay,
that?
that's fine.
We'll see how that class is paying off.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Thanks to DeAndre Abram. I'll be rejoined by Coach Baldwin after this timeout on the Panthers Courtside Report.
It's always out there. The horizon. A reminder that our greatest goals are rarely attained. And as soon as you reach one, another emerges. But every day we rise and work harder, dig deeper, ask one more question, take one more shot in relentless pursuit of our horizon.
And welcome back inside the show. Coach DeAndre and I talking about in the last segment about the red shirt process. And I imagine, and we talked about it, it can't be easy to go through that whole year of just practicing, no travel, no games, and you're just a bystander when it comes to tip-off. That can't be easy and takes a special kind of guy to forge through, and now he's reaping the rewards.
Yeah, it's tough on a kid that you have to redshirt and sit out, and just like you mentioned that you don't have games to look forward to, and I call those the dog days, and he went through it for an entire year. And the thing that I impressed upon him is every practice, every lift, every workout before our game is his game day, and approach it that way. And just as we talked about, it's tough because he had no one else going through that with him, as a red shirt. So it was tough, but I think he had some great teammates that allowed him or helped him get through that. And then once, I texted him on our last game last year, now it's time. And this is your opportunity, and I think he's done a great job in seizing that opportunity.
It's interesting you make that point about him being the only one to go through it last year. This year, we haven't talked much about this. We're focused right now what's happening on the court, but you've got 4 young men who are redshirting, who are going through that process together. It never dawned on me that by having more than one, or in this case 4 guys, it kind of helps that redshirt year. It helps maybe speed it up a little bit.
It does. I think Dre is envious of those guys, but no, it certainly helps to have, in our case now, to have 4 guys that understand the struggle, the pain of not seeing all your labor pay off at this stage, and that's something that I think our guys will benefit from. They're working extremely hard, and you look at someone like Tejon Lucas when he can help someone like Shea go through this, who's a freshman, and Harrison Henderson can go through this and help out, Omar, who's a freshman as well. I think that's going to bode well for us in the future.
Now, how do those guys help this team that is playing? Because they're allowed in practice, correct me if I'm wrong, to kind of be a scout team, and certainly the talent of those redshirt young men helping the current Panthers as well. Explain that, because I don't know if people realize that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously an advantage to you want those guys to play, to try to be able to help you, but because of NCAA rules they can't, and Shea's just redshirting as a freshman on his own. But it certainly helps in our practice because we'll simulate some 5-on-5 against our opponents. So all those guys can be a Davis from Detroit. They can be, some of the best players in our league, and there's not much of a drop off, and it's extremely competitive. I look at someone like, Tejon Lucas, who played in the Big Ten, and now Darius Roy and Bryce Barnes get to go against him every single day. Jake Wright gets to have Tejon guard him, which is not easy, because Tejon, in my opinion, is one of the best defenders that I've coached, that I've been able to coach. So it's really good. It's really helpful. And, I just wish that they could play right now to really help us and give us the depth that we need.
Well, we'll certainly be talking more about those 4 guys in the weeks and the months, and certainly in the years to come. Getting back to the homestand now. Haven't said that word in a month. Yeah. You've got 6 regular season games left, 4 of them at home, starting this Thursday night against the University of Detroit Mercy. You mentioned Davis, Antoine Davis, who has been remarkable as a rookie. They got you the first time at Callahan Hall. Talk about this matchup the second time around, and what maybe differences you're seeing and what your team has to do differently second time around to pull out the win.
Yeah, I think in that game, certainly we talk about Davis. He's a really good player, but their team is good, and they've been doing some very good things. And I think the thing that we have to do a great job of is, while we concentrate on Davis, that we don't let other guys beat us. And I think that's what happened in the first game. Some of their guys that usually don't score as much, they had 9 and 10 points, and obviously that added to Davis's 30 plus that he had against us, and they went to the free throw line a lot. So we have to, number one, not foul, and number two, obviously give that concentrated effort on Davis and understand where he's at on the floor. But also, the other guys that complement their team, we have to do a very good job of taking care of them. And then on the flip side, offensively, we have to, in my opinion, I just think you have to master their zone defense and understand what you're looking for every single possession, and not have any empty possessions, and take advantage of some of the holes that we could probably, that could help us in a win.
You mentioned their zone defense, and it can be very effective. When you think back on your playing career and even your prior coaching stops along the way, what have you seen as the most effective way to beat a really good zone? I know there are different philosophies, certainly, but your thoughts on that? Well,
I think if you look at anything offensively, anytime you're talking, whether it's man or it's zone, the thing that kind of detonates a zone is trying to get into that middle. And when you force teams to collapse, and especially get the ball to the elbows or to the block or in the paint somehow, you can find some holes that way. You can find some opportunities for kickouts for threes, or dump downs for layups. And So that's the first thing that you want to look for against a zone without giving too much of what we're trying to do. But I think those areas, and even I think Coach Davis would even tell you, that's the area that you want to attack.
You've got Detroit Mercy Thursday night, 7 o'clock at Panther Arena. And then I know we're not going to spend too much time on it, but Saturday night, Oakland, always well coached, and you nip them at their place. So they're going to be fired up and certainly motivated for some revenge. And Coach Campy brings the Grizzlies in and a chance to sweep a really good program, Coach. Yeah,
we have, in 2 games, Thursday and Saturday, we have 2 very good coaches coming in here, very good programs. And Coach Campy, closing out this stretch is, he'll have his team prepared as always. And it's always a challenge when they come in. And, we just have to make sure that we're ready, and that, whatever we're trying to do with them, we're always going to be in attack mode. And I always start with defense. We have to be very good defensively. They have, 2 very good players inside and out that can hurt you. So we have to do a very good job against them as well.
Panthers and Detroit Mercy Thursday at 7. Panthers and Oakland Golden Grizzlies Saturday night, 6 o'clock. Finally back at Panther Arena. Coach, best of skill this week. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
My thanks also to DeAndre Abram, who joined us. Thanks to all of you as well. We'll see you next time for the next edition of the Panthers Courtside Report.